Let's let people trickle in and then I'll get going. All right, it seems like we have a good group of folks here already, so I'll go ahead and kick it off, and I'm sure there'll be a few more trickling in the next couple minutes. So yeah, welcome to the Feb 20th working group call. Nice to see a bunch of people. We're going to start off with the antitrust compliance statement. Emlyn, I see you are on camera, so may I call you out to read the compliance statement? Oh, I believe you are muted. All good. Paul, you want to go ahead and read it?
Sure. I'll go ahead. So the Advanced Water Heating Initiative is a member-supported collaborative of professionals from across the U.S. This diverse membership includes numerous competitors, and care must be taken to scrupulously abide by federal and state antitrust laws. Members should remember that antitrust compliance is important at all times. At this and other AWHI meetings, participants should not discuss competitive pricing, profitability, allocating markets or customers, or promotion of a particular product or accessory.
Awesome. Thank you very much. Next up, call agenda. Pretty packed one today. Just did our welcome. We have a few AWHI updates, and we'll do our new member intros as well. So hold off on that. And then next, this is slightly out of order. We're going to go ahead and have Alek speak first about new DOE heat pump water heater resources. Then we'll get into 120 volt first hour rating challenges with Joshua Pierce from RHA. We have Sean from NBI on code updates for heat pump water heaters. Lastly, we have QuitCarbon's heat pump water heater services and overview. And then lastly, we'll end with an open floor and leave some time for questions and next steps. So yeah, with that, if there's anyone who has not been on this call before, I would love if you turn on your camera and just take a few seconds to introduce yourself, say who you are, where you work, etc.
I am Jeff Howard with the Connecticut Department of Energy and Environmental Protection.
Thanks, Jeff.
I believe it's my first time on this call. I'm Raphael Bright with the Regulatory Assistance Project.
Thanks, Raphael.
Hi, my name is Brandon Blisman. I'm with RHA, supporting the 120 volt heat pump water heater initiatives here in California.
Nice to see you, Brandon.
Likewise.
Awesome. With that, I will turn it over. Do we have one more person? Oh, nope. All right, Paul, why don't I let you go ahead with AWHI updates?
Yeah, thank you, Noah, and welcome to everybody that's joined us today. As usual, we've got that full agenda, so we're going to try and get through this quickly so we can turn it over to our great presenters for the day. Joe had put this slide together. He just wanted to make sure that people were aware of this really simplified but effective image that Efficiency Maine has put together as part of their program. So if you're out there looking for depictions of a heat pump water heater, what it does, simple diagram, this is a great one to use in your repertoire. So feel free to grab that and use as accordingly. A couple other updates. AWHI, we've been working with Energy Star to put together and kick off an installer task group. So we're handpicking some of the more progressive installation companies from all different regions of the country. We plan to kick off the group in April. And we're trying to make sure that the installer territories don't overlap, so everybody is fully comfortable to be as transparent and encouraged to be as sharing of ideas and practices, learnings as possible. So we're really excited to have this group come together. As you guys know, we've put a builder action council together. We've got our manufacturing council. So this is the next step in the chain, is to talk and get perspectives from installers. So we're really looking forward to that. And then lastly, next month is the ACEEE Hot Water and Hot Air Forum down in Atlanta. So I'm sure many of you are probably headed that way. But between AWHI, Energy Star, and others, there are going to be a number of sessions that will be highlighting the things that we talk about here all the time, including programming, call center best practices, connectivity, evolving resources across the industry, and then technical resource manual saving updates as well. That's something Energy Star has been pursuing to make sure that the savings numbers and the cost-effective calculations in these state TRMs are as up-to-date as possible, so as many utilities can utilize the savings numbers and include them in their rebate programs. Next. Energy Star. So a couple of updates there. As the image shows, that's Matt Reisinger again. I think we talked about this last time. I think since we released this latest Energy Star sponsored video with Matt and the Build Show on YouTube, we're up to about 140,000 views, over 800 comments. So it's really been attracted by a lot of the industry and a lot of great positive comments from it. At the same time, Energy Star just issued an Ask the Expert article defining uniform energy factor and why it's important for somebody that's considering a heat pump water heater. So there's some nice explanation there. You can find that out on the Energy Star website. I think there's going to be an email blast out to the network coming around that too. And then just today, Energy Star launched a new home savings tool, and this is simply a tool that as a user, you enter your zip code, and what returns are all incentives, rebates, tax credits that are available to you in your zip code. And that goes for the Inflation Reduction Act and what it offers as well. And as state programs come online with their incentive packages, Energy Star will be updating the tool accordingly. So I encourage you to go out there and take a look, enter your zip code, and see what comes back, and certainly open to feedback as well. Anybody, once you've got a chance to look at that, to say, you know, this, I wish you could do this better, or this really looks good. I think Energy Star is always looking for input from that. And then lastly, Energy Star is going to be launching a Clean Energy Future campaign coming this Earth Day, or maybe just slightly after it. But this is really the push for Energy Star this year, is the key theme. A lot of focus on the Southeast region for a number of reasons that we've talked about here in the past, but really looking forward to that campaign. And many of you have already had a chance to comment and contribute to some of the content that's a part of. So that's it for me on that, Noah.
Sweet. Well, I will turn it over to Alek then to speak about new DOE heat pump water heater resources. So Alek, if you want to share your screen, you can go ahead.
Great. I think my slide is just maybe one or two down the line.
Oh, excellent.
Yeah, there we go. Oh, we just go back one. Great. Thanks, Noah. So yeah, my name's Alek Parsons. I'm here with Pacific Northwest National Lab, and just wanted to make everyone aware of a program that's been ongoing for a bit, but we just recently finalized our branding and our name, so wanted to make sure everyone's aware of it. Essentially, it's called the Energy Skilled Recognition, and the goal is really to highlight training programs and certifications on residential decarb technologies like heat pump water heaters and variable speed heat pumps for space heating. So we are trying to get the word out to training programs, and we really just want to highlight those training programs that are doing high quality training on these decarb technologies, and also link up states who are looking to incorporate training programs in their workforce development programs. So yeah, we're looking for those programs, especially relevant for this meeting is heat pump water heater installation training programs. And then it's a pretty simple process to fill out the tool. Feel free to email that email address with questions. And for those training programs that are looking to add to their curriculum, we also have a suite of heat pump water heater instructor resources on the Building Science Education Solutions Center that are open source and free for anybody to incorporate in their training programs. So I think that's everything. Definitely reach out to me or this email with any questions on that. Thanks.
Thanks so much, Alek. Sweet. So next up is 120 volt heat pump water heater first hour rating challenges. So Josh, if you want to go ahead and I will switch slides for you though. So just let me know when you want the next one.
Great, thanks. Trying to see if I can get my camera to work here. So seems to not wanting to read. See. So you won't get to see my handsome face. Go ahead. To the next slide. Great. Thank you. So I wanted to just take a few minutes to highlight some issues that we've been having in California and kind of maybe open it up for a few minutes of dialogue, depending on how much time we have in the call. So where this originally came about was we had an issue submitting rebates for the tech program when we were installing 120 volt heat pump water heaters here in California, because the water heaters that we were able to fit into customers' homes in some of these circumstances, we were not able to upsize the water heaters to match the first hour rating, and therefore the tech rebates were rejected. So we did a little research. Evidently, that this was a issue that other folks have been experiencing as well. In fact, some other folks were ahead of it. I don't know if Ben Foster's on the call from Barnett Plumbing, but I know that they've been very actively involved in this. And so maybe I'll just kind of lay out 4 elements of this for discussion. The first one being that upsizing, what we have found is that in order to meet the first hour ratings, regardless of whether or not the water heater actually meets the customer's needs, you usually have to upsize. So you can see down in the lower column with the yellow cells, when you're just using sort of like for like, oftentimes the first hour rating does not meet the requirements of the California Plumbing Code, and thus are also not eligible for the rebates. We've also begun to encounter issues where this is getting called out by jurisdictions, by authorities having jurisdiction for permits. It's an emerging issue, but it is popping up from here and there. So almost always upsizing is required. However, one of the challenges with upsizing is, of course, space constraints. So if the water heater's in an indoor closet, or there are nearby doors that are creating issues with, the compliance with the door being able to swing full 90 degrees open, all kinds of, space-related constraints when upsizing water heaters. When you want to use a 120 gallon or 120 volt water heater, which we often do because they, yes, sorry, Kevin, I should have specified, these are shared circuit. One of the benefits of shared circuit water heaters is that they don't require a dedicated circuit, reducing the cost to the customer, or to, in our case, the sponsoring program. What we have seen, of course, is that upsizing is sometimes not entirely necessary because we can increase the tank temperatures and use a mixing valve, or if the mixing valve is already embedded in the product. So what my understanding, and again, if Ben's on, feel free to come off mute. But my understanding is that Rheem submitted some new test data to the AHRI, and that recently got approved and was posted on the AHRI website, that modestly, very modestly improved the first hour ratings. Still requires upsizing in most situations. I'm not an expert on first hour ratings, but my initial observation was that maybe it's because with these, especially with these units that don't have the electric resistance backup, that the recovery rate is slow, and therefore the first hour rating, recovery rate being a component of that calculation, didn't improve the first hour rating that much by doing the new testing with the higher internal tank temperatures. So anyway, just wanted to take a minute to kind of highlight this, see if other folks were experiencing issues, what kinds of solutions they were having. We were sort of hoping that maybe the new calculations, the new testing that Ream had done would have improved those a little bit further than we actually saw them do. They only went up a couple of gallons in terms of first hour rating. Brandon is also on the call, and he was the one that put this little spreadsheet together. So thanks and credit to Brandon for helping me out last minute here. I think somebody's got their hand up.
Yeah, Jim Lutz. Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be me. One of the funny things about these heat pump water heaters, especially the ones with mixing valves built in, is the manufacturer can adjust the first hour rating by adjusting the internal tank temperature, the set point, effectively. And with the mixing valve, deliver it at a different lower temperature, which effectively increases it. I don't know if that's what Ream did or not, but the problem is they can only advertise their tanks by what they report to DOE in their certification process. And you know, that's what the building codes and the inspectors look at is, you know, what's it listed at? So in reality, and manufacturers, I must admit, are very touchy at letting you get inside and tweak the controls of their tanks. But in reality, you could tweak the controls of the tank to give you a higher first hour rating.
Mm-hmm.
But that doesn't help with the code inspectors, and you know, the manufacturers are probably going to squawk at it and things like that. But if there was a way of, you know, it's doable,
Yeah.
I guess is what I'm saying.
So Jim, I can address that, I think. So to my understanding, I could be wrong, but based on the traffic that I saw, that was exactly what Ream did, was that they conducted the test and they actually submitted new certifications for approval with new first hour ratings based on a higher internal tank temperature. That's my understanding. Again, I could be wrong. Don't quote me on that. However, because, and again, I'm an armchair expert here, so call me out if I'm misquoting, but because the first hour rating calculation is 70% of the tank volume, and with some sort of multiplication with the recovery rate, and because even though you're increasing the internal tank temperature, you're not changing the recovery rate, you don't get as much of a bump. Again, I'm not, you know, an expert on how that is calculated, but you don't get as much of a bump as that you actually get in terms of real delivered hot water. So to your point, to your example, if the water heater set at 120 degrees, my first hour rating's 55 gallons, then and I haven't turned the tank temperature up above that, that's when I'm going to get. However, if I turn it up to 140 and with a mixing valve, I'm probably going to get, there's somebody, I think Jeff Wicks did a calculation, you know, somewhere between 10 and 15% more actual output. However, the first hour rating doesn't necessarily give you credit for all of that. So in practicality, you're right, you can deliver more hot water to the customer. However, it doesn't necessarily dramatically impact the change to the first hour rating.
The first hour,
The first
I
hour rating
probably
is a
know
test. It's not a calculation.
it's a test.
yeah,
Yeah.
you-
1 hour.
A 1 hour test.
It's a measured amount of water that you draw during that test. I think you have it confused with your UEF, which then becomes a calculation based on your first hour rating, your draw bin, and your 24-hour efficiency test.
See, I'm glad I had the caveat there of being an armchair.
Right.
Thank you for the correction.
So
And y'all-
back
go
to the
ahead.
first hour rating, if the manufacturer decides they want to rate their tank with the internal set point set at 140 and a mixing valve bringing it down to 125, they could do that. They may
Exactly.
they obviously have reasons for not doing that. And, you know, manufacturers have lots of reasons and all sorts of proprietary
They should have to
discussions.
test. They should have to test UEF at the same internal tank temp that they test the first hour rating at. So their
And they do.
efficiency would probably tank if they're testing, let's say, at 140 tank temp.
Well, it does. It does increase. It does decrease the efficiency a little bit. You still have a heat pump water heater that's much, much more efficient than your other electric technology, electric resistance. So if you ship it at a 140 tank temp and a 120 delivery temp, then that's what you have to test at for first hour rating and UEF. A.O. Smith originally opted to have the higher tank temperature, so their UEF was a little bit less. Rheem initially shipped with the tank temperature lower, like I think 120, 125. And now it sounds like they've revised that and redone their testing and resubmitted it. And so now those values may be a little bit larger. But I think there's a difference between what happens with first hour rating, which is a 1 hour test, versus what you actually see in the field, which obviously is much different test conditions and all of that.
Yeah. And I have to hop in here, y'all. We can definitely come back to this at the end, but do need to keep us moving along just on time stuff here, if that's cool. So I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Sean. But thanks so much, Josh. And I think we should definitely come back to this at the end, but just need to keep us moving.
There's a
moving
session
along.
at the Hot Water Forum on this.
Awesome.
On 120 volt heat pump water heaters, and yeah.
No, super excited for that, and I will definitely be attending that session. Awesome. Okay, I'm gonna turn it over to you, Sean.
All right. Hello, everyone. My name is Sean Denniston. I'm an associate director with New Buildings Institute. I've had the opportunity to speak to this group a couple of times in the past, but it's been a little while, and I'm going to give a couple of updates on codes and policy happenings that will be impacting the uptake of heat pump water heaters. So there's really two big things to talk about. We've talked in the past about there have been developments in codes that have led to what looked like would be greater uptake of heat pump water heaters. And now we have some developments in the codes and policy world that may dampen some of that uptake. And the two that we really want to talk about are the Ninth Circuit decision on Berkeley's gas ban and some appeals that are underway to the 2024 IECC. So we're going to just go ahead and start with the Ninth Circuit decision. For background, I never know if people are as wonky into this as I am, so I do want to give some background, but I'll try to keep it brief. In 2019, Berkeley passed an ordinance that banned most new gas connections in new buildings, so effectively requiring them to be all electric. In April 2023, a challenge to that ordinance brought by the California Restaurant Association was heard by the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals, where they overturned the ban. They said that it violates EPCA, which is Federal Preemption Appliance Standards, which I'm sure you are all very familiar with, based on a certain understanding of that legislation. Berkeley asked for the decision to be reheard by the full panel of justices, and just last month, that request was turned down. So as of now, Berkeley's gas ban has technically been overturned, has been ruled in contradiction to the federal appliance standards. And that really casts doubt on all electric codes, which heat pump water heaters would have been a beneficial recipient of. An important thing to keep in mind here is we don't know what the next steps are going to look like. Oh, I'm sorry, I should, just in case. The EPCA does set minimum efficiency standards for appliances and equipment. It prevents states and local jurisdictions from setting more stringent standards. And it's probably worth explaining what the logic of the court was, which is that the gas ban effectively set an energy use requirement of 0 for gas equipment. And that was the logic that they used, that EPCA sets standards for energy use, since if you ban the pipes, then you're setting that energy use to 0, and that's not allowed under EPCA. So what are the consequences of this? It's varied, and I think that it's not real clear right now. The first thing is that this decision is only binding in the Ninth Circuit. It's not a national decision. That might be a distinction without a difference, though, because everybody pays attention to what happens in the other districts. The DOE and the Department of Justice have disagreed with the interpretation that led to this decision, and there was a strong dissent on record, but we don't know what is going to happen next. We don't know if, and maybe somebody does, maybe Berkeley has decided to try to appeal this up a level. That is certainly something that could happen. This could, a different, slightly differently worded ordinance in the Ninth Circuit could be challenged, and this could be re-adjudicated in a different way, or a different all-electric requirement code could go through in a different district court and could come forth with a different finding. That strong dissent included the justices who joined the dissent encouraged any other district to not make the same mistakes. So we don't really know what the outcome of this will be from a legal standpoint, but we do know that it has had a strong chilling effect on electrification codes, on mandated electrification. So what do those next steps look like? We do already see an increased focus on electric preferred codes. So these don't mandate electric equipment, but what they do is use the efficiency premium that you have been talking about for months and years that you can get from things like heat pump water heaters to incentivize buildings to go toward heat pumps. By right now, most of our codes are set up to ignore the performance difference between different kinds of equipment. And so an electric preferred code makes it stop ignoring it and actually acknowledges the performance difference between different types of equipment. Another thing that we are seeing some jurisdictions look to is a shift to emissions-based requirements for mandatory electrification, but we will have to see how that actually plays out. And before we move to the IACC, I see that we have a hand up. So why don't we go ahead if there are any questions about what we're seeing here.
I think Rod has his hand up. Maybe not.
So I took it down. It was for the previous section. Okay.
No worries. And Sean, let me know if I'm on the right slide here. I can always go ahead if you need it.
There should still be the next steps. I wanted to note that, I've got this image up. NBI already has what we've called our mixed fuel path, which is an electric preferred code. So there are already electric preferred codes out there, model language like we have. We see heat pump preferred and electric preferred code language in place in a few jurisdictions already, including Washington State, California in a little way, Denver. So these electric preferred approaches are already in existence as jurisdictions who might be a little bit more lawsuit shy, but still want to pursue electrification. I think we'll see more and more of them go this direction. And we'll go ahead and go to the next one. Oh, I can go to the next one. So IACC
I think actually,
appeals.
so if you go to the next one, I don't think it shows, but you'll have to make sure that.
I apologize. I thought that I was navigating this whole time, so I'm sorry if you weren't seeing what you needed to. So the 2024 IACC, under its new consensus committee process, has finalized the draft Both the residential and the commercial committees have voted to approve their final drafts, but we are in the midst of an appeal process. So the ICC has an appeals process for what the consensus committees decide, and we have several appeals to language and pieces that are in the IECC, and 2 of those are particularly relevant for this group. So the first one is an appeal to the demand responsive water heating controls requirements for storage water heaters that made it into the code. As I'm sure most of you understand, right now, most, if not all, of the storage water heaters on the market that have demand responsive controls are heat pump water heaters. And so this requirement effectively requires a heat pump water heater. If the market changes and puts those controls back on electric resistance like they used to be, that could change. But there is an appeal to this requirement, and it could be removed from the code based on that appeal. The other is there was a requirement in the 2024 IECC for both commercial and residential buildings that buildings that did not use heat pumps for both space and water heating would have to achieve a higher level of efficiency in other areas. And this was meant to close that gap between heat pumps and other kinds of equipment. That those provisions in both residential and commercial have also been appealed. And there's a couple of appeals to those. So that provision could also be removed. The hearings start tomorrow and go for 3 days. They start at 7 a.m. Pacific with no set end time. I think they're expecting quite a high level of participation. And the ICC appeals process is laid out in their policies, but when it comes right down to it, the ICC reserves to itself a fairly high level of control in what happens in the appeals. So it's difficult to predict what is going to happen in this appeals process. And these requirements that really would foster the adoption of heat pumps under new buildings built under the 2024 IECC may be removed from the code. So are there any questions on either of these 2 big topics?
Chris?
Yeah, thanks for this. Do you know whether they are taking into consideration the effects of the regulations in place in Oregon, Washington, and Colorado that require a certain level of compliance with CTA 2045, because that's changing the landscape about what electric storage water heaters have demand responsive, at least some demand responsive capability.
I am sure that those issues will be brought up in the appeals themselves, probably from both proponents and opponents. I know that how Washington has had to delay those requirements out of their own appliance standards will probably be brought up. So I'm sure that will be part of the conversation, but it's, like I said, it's difficult to predict what the outcomes will be.
Nancy?
Hi, Sean. Thanks for that update on the case and letting folks know about it. I just wanted to add something some of you have heard me talk about before, which is one of the reasons we've been looking at setting emission standards and using air quality regulations for trying to help transform the marketplace is because of this case. I think it makes it a stronger case for using other regulatory authorities within the states to try to promote heat pump water heaters, heat pumps generally, if you have an air quality basis or additional basis for your requirements. I imagine you know that, Sean, but I just thought I'd phrase it for the group who might not have heard it before.
Yes, and that's one of the reasons we're already seeing just the very beginnings of a shift to some jurisdictions thinking about how they can use their air quality and emissions-based standards to achieve the same thing that the electrification codes did in the past. It's really looking to a different authority. And since EPCA does regulate efficiency and evidently energy use, but it doesn't regulate emissions the same way. So there is an opportunity to achieve the same goal through a different regulatory authority. It'll be interesting to see how that plays out and how things get structured and what jurisdiction is willing to be at the forefront of that to take the first risk.
Yeah, it doesn't certainly diminish the importance of codes. I don't by any means mean to do that. And I'm pleased. I need to learn more about these hybrid codes you're talking about. It sounds like maybe that's going to be a way to kind of thread the needle, some of these needles. So thanks.
Awesome. Thanks so much, John. I know we have to transition to the next one here, but I really appreciate the updates, and I'm sure you can, follow up afterwards if you have more questions here.
Yeah, if anyone has any questions, feel free. I know that you have Noah's and Joseph's contact, and they can get any questions to me to be answered. Thank you all very much for your time.
Thanks a ton, Sean. All right, it's Cooper with QuitCarbon's heat pump water heater work. And again, just let me know when you want me to switch slides.
Excellent. I'll be letting you know a lot because we've got a ton of slides and I'm going to move very quickly, but everyone's going to get a copy afterwards so you can review them. Yeah. Hi, everybody. Long-time listener, first-time caller. I'm Cooper, the chief quitter here at QuitCarbon. We'll be telling you a bit. I'll be teaching you a bit about what we do and what's in it for you. Next slide. We are an innovative and unusual organization, a mission-driven for-profit that provides residential homeowners with assistance on electrifying their homes at no cost. We're funded by other sources, not the homeowner, things like via contractors' marketing budgets and avoided carbon payments and grants and prizes and other ways, but free to homeowners. Next slide. We currently serve all of California and we're expanding rapidly and we're looking forward to joining other states. Perhaps you will invite us. Next slide. We've won numerous awards and validations, most notably 2 prizes from the U.S. Department of Energy in the Equitable and Affordable Solutions to Electrification and the Buildings Upgrade Prize programs. As far as we know, the only prize programs that are recognizing innovative solutions to electrification retrofits. Also, speaking to the previous topic, I serve on the implementation working group for the Bay Area Air Quality Management District's Zero NOx rule, a rule that will eventually ban the sale of gas water heaters and furnaces, first in the Bay Area and eventually California statewide. Next slide. We love all of our partners across nonprofits and utility and government, and we'll be mentioning a few of them in this presentation. Next slide. We have a couple of certifications coming up, particularly excited about a new Energy Star program, which I think I might have learned about on an earlier edition of this call, and we're looking forward to becoming B Corp certified. Next slide. So we exist because home electrification is hard for homeowners and for contractors. We need them both to be better navigating the clean energy transition, and QuitCarbon exists to facilitate more productive relationships between homeowners and contractors. We are not a contractor. We sell nothing. We give advice and help to both parties. Next slide. The way we do this is first by marketing. We run online ads. Next slide. And send direct mail, next slide, get folks to come to our website and enroll with us. And once they do, we can nurture and educate them with targeted emails like the ones you see here. Next slide. We provide easy access to home electrification retrofit experts. Book a call, email us, chat with us, even just pick up the phone. Next slide. Once you enroll with us, which is free and easy, we're going to do a little quick online assessment of your home. We're going to together review your plan, and then we're hopefully motivating you to take referrals to contractors and make some changes in your home. Next slide. Here's a view of the process. You can see on the left, far to the left, not shown, is all the marketing we're doing. Then we bring folks on board, we make their plan, and we sort of go through this cycle with each home around nurturing and educating, trying to get homeowners ready to take a referral to a contractor. Contractors do the bid. We then benchmark the bid, and homeowners say yes. This whole process can take anywhere from a few months for all the projects in a home to, gosh, a decade or more, unfortunately. But we're in it forever, however long it takes you. And then we still help you even as you fully electrify your home with making sure that you're operating your appliances efficiently and effectively. Next slide. The home electrification plan we create for you is long, maybe a little too long right now, but that's kind of what it looks like. We're going to zoom in on the heat pump water heater sections. Next slide. So first, we help you understand the climate impact of your home. That's motivating for some people. Next slide. Then we help you understand your energy impact, where your gas and electricity usage is going, different appliances. Next slide. These are what we're seeing here are sections of that home electrification plan we just flashed on screen. We'll help you understand how much money you're going to save on your utility bills by presenting a 15-year projection. Next slide. We'll help you understand how you're currently heating your water and what we recommend for changing. Next slide. We'll compare for you the difference between getting a heat pump water heater and getting a new gas water heater. Folks often think that electric appliances are expensive, but they're typically making the wrong comparison. They're comparing them to do nothing, but someday they're going to need a new water heater. And so the correct comparison is do it the old-fashioned way, sticking with fossil fuels. Next slide. We then encourage folks to take a referral to a contractor. And when they do, next slide, they visit our little page and get matched with a local contractor. Next slide. We make that introduction via email typically. Next slide. And when the bid comes back from the contractor, we benchmark it for the homeowner. We help them understand all the rebate details, help them feel confident that the scope and price is correct. We're there helping them actually say yes to a contractor, because that is when home electrification really occurs, when a homeowner says yes. Next slide. We've helped a number of times with getting heat pump water heaters in exterior closets, based partially on the great things we've learned here in this call about how to do this correctly, using some of the research out of Pacific Northwest National Lab. Next slide. We also can get creative with advising on heat pump water heaters in unusual locations, like these two different views of Sandco split system heat pump water heaters. The one on the right has the heat pump water heater compressor in an interior room. The room was big enough and it works great, but it's not typical. Next slide. Homeowners love the service, and so do contractors. We get tons of fantastic reviews. Next slide. We've got a nice high NPS score, and it keeps going up, which means we're doing better at satisfying folks. All right, last few slides. Next slide. So one thing we struggle, we're challenged by, is that incentives change too darn quickly. We assume they will change. New rebates will come, old rebates will go away. Sometimes they'll disappear almost overnight. This is an unfortunate market characteristic, but we just assume that's the norm and will continue to be the norm in more and more places as more incentive dollars come into the market. We pay very close attention to all the different incentive programs and then are very responsive by sometimes encouraging our homeowner clients to hurry up and take advantage, or maybe to wait if they can do so if their appliance is on hold. When incentives go down, we negotiate with local contractors to try to load them up with enough work and also get better pricing for homeowners by doing a group buy. We also can direct homeowners' attention towards other upgrades. So recently in California, in many regions, heat pump water heater incentives went down, but other incentives stayed the same, and soon will be going up. So we're able to direct homeowners' attention to where the money is. And then we can increase our efforts to reach out to low and moderate income households for whom many of the incentives are sadly underutilized. Next slide. We also work very carefully in partnering with contractors. Contractors are the key to the clean energy transition. They're the ones doing the work, and we want them out there in the field turning wrenches on retrofits, not on gas appliances. So we need to really make sure we understand what's in it for me, the contractors asking us when we talk to them and encourage them to partner with us. We teach them how we're going to minimize their business process changes. They don't have to log into an app or go to some huge training. They just get ready to buy homeowners referred by us. And what we ask is that they behave well electrically, right? Don't try to sell them a gas appliance. Be responsive. This relationship really reduces the sales risk and improves the close rates of contractors because homeowners are so much better educated. You saw all the educational content we present to each of our homeowner clients before. It makes them much more likely to say yes when the contractor bids, rather than saying, oh my God, $9,000 for a heat pump water heater, heck no, right? And finally, by doing the rebate and incentive optimization ahead of time, we're reducing the contractor workload for rebates, which makes the homeowners more likely to receive them. Next slide. So we could use a hand in achieving decarbonization goals. We'd love to be on your website, email, social media, if you're serving California and soon other states. We're available for consulting and engagement. We've been recently completed a project with 3C RAN, a utility in the Central Coast, and have similar projects coming up with the city of San Jose, the city of San Francisco, and others. We love connecting with local nonprofits, community-based organizations. We do a lot of educational presentations about the benefits of home electrification. And finally, maybe most importantly, we are an example of a new type of organization that kind of didn't exist before, helper services that are not a contractor and that are also not a nonprofit and that exist to accelerate the clean energy transition. Unfortunately, today, many incentive and other programs don't really assume that organizations like ours exist, but there are more and more of them. And so if you're running a decarbonization or retrofit program, I encourage you to anticipate the future where there will be many organizations like ours that exist to help homeowners do business with contractors and accelerate the clean energy transition. Next slide, please. And last slide, reach out. That's how you can reach me. You can learn more at a longer webinar that's being hosted by PG&E in a couple weeks. You can see some additional slides, and we'd love for you to try out QuitCarbon. It's free, easy, no obligation, and you might enjoy it. Thanks very much. Oh, and I can't see the chat, so unfortunately I can't answer questions there, but
yeah,
happy to hear
I can bring them up right now. I just wanted to say thank you
great.
so much. That was super fascinating. Amin, I will get to your question in 1 sec. I see your raised hand. Just wanted to hit the ones in the chat first. So Tristan from Skycentrics, because of gas prices, there was negative ROI on heat pumps. Anyone else see those articles? Okay, that may or may not be relevant for this. Cooper, do you ever work with renters? That was a question from Jim.
Renters are tricky. They don't control their appliances. If a renter wants a new water heater, they got to talk to their landlord. So we work with renters in that they refer us to their landlords. Sometimes renters often live in small multi-unit buildings where the landlord might even live in another unit or at least be a small-time operator. Small landlords are very similar to homeowners in terms of their motivations and decision-making processes. So we certainly work with them. And then we have a blog article on our website where in some circumstances, we facilitate renter and landlord maximizing incentives. Sometimes they each need to do something to get the most incentives for a project, and we certainly can help with those. But I gotta say, it's tricky. We need better solutions in general, especially for large multifamily.
Sweet. Okay, Alman, do you still have your question?
Yes. Hi, Cooper. Thank you for the great presentation. I fall into the piece where I electrified maybe like 10 years ago, maybe with like point of use electric with drain water heat recovery or just like electric little heaters in different rooms. I'm pretty insulated, but I'm going to be doing like a lift in a year, and I'm having a hard time finding incentive programs for if you already have electrified, but you want to go deeper into heat pumps and do other things. Do your tools on QuitCarbon handle existing electric buildings that want to go deeper?
Absolutely. When folks enroll with QuitCarbon, we put them through a series of questions about what they have in their home, and then use a logic model to predict what are the most suitable next steps for them. We're constantly refining and improving those predictions as new rebates come, as rebates go, as new technology becomes available. And so certainly if you enrolled, we would make a roadmap for your home, and then it would keep changing because the world of home electrification keeps changing. I will applaud you. You're already electric. So you've already switched over to a cleaner power source. You're not burning fossil fuels in your home. That's terrific. Unfortunately, in many locations today, incentives are limited for electric to more efficient electric retrofits. Mostly they're dedicated to fossil fuel to electric. But that's okay. This world will change. Go ahead and sign up, and we'll notify you when we find new opportunities to save even more.
Awesome. Thanks, Cooper. Really appreciate it.
And I had a quick question myself, just out of curiosity. You were talking about funding with carbon offsets sometimes. Do those come from larger commercial companies that are, trying to like kind of do some math with carbon credits? Just wonder if you could speak to that at all.
More typically, so carbon offsets is a very spicy topic. And for the most part, no. Instead, that funding comes from larger organizations that want to support the clean energy transition, but they don't have a corporate venture arm, and they can't just make a donation to us because we're not a nonprofit. So there are programs out there that will monetize the avoided carbon from home electrification, but they're not really being sold as offsets where some other big company can then pollute because you got a heat pump water heater. That would not be great. And those are not the programs we participate in. Instead, these are ways that big corporations can support financially the growth of home electrification retrofits in a way that fits their sort of spending rules, which don't allow them to just make donations.
That's so excellent. Okay, awesome. Thanks for the clarification. And that seems like a good way to funnel donations for sure to a great cause.
Great. Well, thanks, everybody. Really enjoyed getting to join this call and present after so many months of learning so much on this call. Appreciate it.
Yep. Hey, Cooper, I had a quick
you.
question for you. You mentioned the LMI customer and your work with CBOs and communities. Can you give us a specific example where you've seen some progress there?
Yeah, we're really excited by some upcoming grant opportunities in California that are directly funding public, nonprofit private partnerships on outreach. We've been working most closely with a nonprofit in Oakland called Rising Sun Center for Opportunity. They've had a program for many years where they do greenhouse calls. They go to homes and help people learn about LED light bulbs and faucet aerators for sort of relatively modest home energy efficiency improvements. We now conduct outreach with and through Rising Sun to their past audience of homes to provide further opportunities for energy burden reductions and health improvements by electrifying those homes. Those sorts of collaborations are the ones we really look for, where there's already an audience gathered by a nonprofit that has some sort of energy awareness or home improvement awareness, and we can then be helpful with the much more complicated steps of actually getting your appliances switched and taking maximum advantage of rebates.
Like it. Thank you.
Cool. Any
One
other
more thing
questions?
about that, because our service is free to homeowners, the offer there is easy, right? We're not asking nonprofits to help us sell a thing. We're asking them to help us reach folks and teach them about how much they can save. And luckily, with many of the incentive programs, the upgrades in low moderate income homes are ultimately free or even negative cost after incentives and bill savings.
Wonderful.
Great.
Thanks again.
Thank
Any
you.
other questions here? I think we can move on to open floor. So yeah, we just have 7 minutes left here, but if we wanted to circle back to any of the first hour rating, Jim, go ahead.
Finding the mute button. I wanted to announce here that the AWHI is starting a guideline project for residential heat pump water heaters in multifamily buildings. So it's residential, but it's multifamily buildings with central systems. How do you design, install, commission, operate, and maintain those sorts of systems. It's a guideline from AWHI. It's going to be a very helpful document from a trusted resource. It's not a standard, so you don't have to follow it. But if you're doing that sort of work, if you're new to that sort of work, it's just the document that you would pick up and try to understand how you need to apply it to your project. If you're already doing that sort of work and would be interested in joining the committee, let me know.
Awesome, thank you. Was there another hand up? I think. Was it Josh?
Josh, yeah.
Yeah, just had a quick announcement for the group. RHA is working on a couple of guides for Silicon Valley clean energy. And one of them is for best practices for siting mechanical equipment. And so this would be, condensing units in space constrained lots and sites. And another one is for optimizing electrical service panels. So big challenge in California, very long timelines and costs associated with upgrading to 200 amp service. So we're consolidating a lot of industry knowledge and insights around strategies for minimizing the necessity for service panel upgrades. So if anybody from the group is interested in contributing to that or having access to those once they're finalized and approved by the client, they're really small projects. There's not like a bunch of budget in there for it, but we love to crowdsource insights and knowledge from folks. So anybody that's interested can reach out to me and I'll put my email in the chat.
Sweet. Bill?
Yeah, I just wanted to point out on the 120 volt heat pump water heater, if it's connected via EcoPort, we actually can do a lot to improve the consumer experience. We can't physically change the first hour rating because that's determined by DOE. But looking at the use profile, we could do an advanced load up, which will temporarily increase the tank temperatures in advance of hot water usage, giving more supply available. And then in the early hours of the morning, we could actually do a shed command, which would reduce the total supply of hot water, reducing some of our energy use. So I think by choreographing when we would do load up and shed, we could actually probably provide a little better energy efficiency overall, and certainly improve the effective first hour rating, if you will, by using EcoPort commands.
Excellent. Cool. So just a couple minutes left here. So wrap up and next steps. We have our next residential working group meeting on March 19th. Joe will be back. I was just covering for him today, but I'll still be on my commercial or on my load shifting working group meeting, so I'll see y'all there. Email info@advancedwaterheatinginitiative.org if you're not receiving emails. And yeah, that is pretty much it. Any other updates, Paul, before we log off for today?
I'm just going to be the first one to tell Joe how well you kept everybody on track and on time.
Good, I appreciate it.
No, nothing else for me.
Excellent. Well, I will be sending out the slides, and the meeting was recorded as always, so you'll get both of those later today. Cheers, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.